All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Don't Yuck My Yum podcast. I am your host, Carlito Gilchrist, and with me, as always, is my other host of the show, my lovely wife,
Courtney Gilchrist.
Yeah, I just figured I'd let you do your own name introduction.
I'm the co-host.
You're entitled to it.
We're both the hosts.
Yeah. Now, are we like co-hosts or we're co-hosts? Like
we're the hosts.
We're the hosts.
Plural.
We don't have a co-host.
No, we are the hosts.
We're
together.
both the main hosts.
Yes.
Yeah. One does not control the show over the other.
No.
Unless, like, one of us decides to go on a tyrant one day and this whole thing comes, like, crumbling down. And
I don't think that will happen.
No, you don't think?
Well, I think we got it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
We're recording this on Valentine's Day.
Yes. First Valentine's Day of the marriage.
I hope everyone else is having a good Valentine's Day.
Yeah, during everything. Maybe get something to eat or come up with a cool recipe and make your own Valentine's Day dinner.
What all can you do on, like, Valentine's Day during a pandemic?
Well, my sister made a fort. She did like a sheet fort and
really?
Yeah, and made like this theme of like Wes Anderson films and
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, you know how she does.
This is for everyone who doesn't know, this is the sister who helps us with all of our, like, online social media
our
stuff.
Instagram.
Yeah. She's kind of in charge of all that.
Yes,
Because
she does all that.
she's really good at that stuff, and I don't
Yeah.
have the tolerance for
Well,
it.
we're kind of novices to the social media.
Like, if I really wanted to, I could do it, but
It
she
wouldn't
likes
really
to do
be
it.
as
It wouldn't be as good.
Nice.
No. I'd do a...
You would just put some random photo and just be like, here you go.
It's kind of how I do the post for the episode somewhere. I'm just like, listen to it, I guess. Or not, I don't care.
He does.
Like,
care.
I do
let
care,
him
but I'm just
fool
like,
you. He cares. Don't let that mannish exterior. Don't let the beard fool you.
the cynicism.
Yes.
I'm trying to be the Christopher Plummer of this podcast.
Yeah.
And you can be the Julie Andrews.
Yeah. So that kind of leads into our topic of this episode is
The movie.
the movie which we are reviewing is The Sound of Music.
Yes.
Which is my pick because somebody has never seen it.
Never seen Sound of Music.
But I've ran into a couple people recently who have both were like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that. I'm like, what? It's a classic.
Yeah, I think it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it is beloved, but it depends on who you ask. Like, I think more people who are like kind of into musicals, that seems more up their alley, because it is a commitment of a movie. It's 3 hours. It's a musical, so you really have to like musicals, I think, to want to watch it.
Yeah, specifically 2 hours and 52 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, just about 3 hours.
Probably because it's also, I bet you The Sound of Music is like, it's gone into this territory now where all the songs are so recognizable.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people know the songs, but they don't realize it's from this movie.
Yeah, and I think it's
Like-
people know the music, but they probably like roll their eyes because they hear it so much, like in the background of stuff or whatever, and they're like, "Oh gosh, I can't stand it." So I could see how like maybe just a lot of people are like, "I really don't want to watch this," you know? They just don't want to invest the time.
Yeah, nowadays people don't want to sit there and watch something for 3 hours, but this is why we did it for them.
Right. Which is weird because people like they'll
sit on
binge
their
TV
phones.
shows.
Yeah, they're binge TV shows for like 6 hours.
Yeah,
And
but like they
that's
can't
no
watch
problem, but they can't watch a 3-hour movie.
Like, I remember when The Irishman came out and everyone complained, like, oh, it's 3.5 hours long. I can't sit through that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
please, you can watch, like, 4 hours of, I don't know, Gossip Girl or something, or the Bachelor, but you can't watch, like, a 3.5 hour, like, amazing film. I don't know. I just think it's kind of weird. But I'll explain myself. The reason I never actually watched this movie, honestly, it's just because, like, it just never piqued my interest to watch it. Like, I knew I was like, I need to watch this at some point. Mm-hmm. I just think I kind of looked at it as, this is a movie I wouldn't watch alone.
I could see, yeah. I mean, I don't see young 12-year-old Carlito being like, what should
Check
I
this out.
watch? Sound of Music.
That sounds great.
That sounds exactly what a 12-year-old boy would want to see.
I think it's good that I waited till now to see it, because I think if I had watched this any earlier, I wouldn't have enjoyed it.
Yeah, you wouldn't appreciate it.
I think I just would have been like, oh, it's a musical. I can't do this.
I know.
Which is sad. Because it honestly, it's a very enjoyable movie, I must say.
It is.
Yeah. I liked it a lot.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You yummed. There you go.
Well, I haven't gotten there yet. Let's see.
Well, it's done. You liked it.
Okay, end of episode.
End of episode.
Thank
you, and tune in next week.
The conversation might turn it around.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see. But I thought, and how did we decide to do this movie before Christopher Plummer just passed away?
I don't. If I remember correctly, I think we saw that he passed, and then we were talking about all the films he's done, because he's done so much. And then I was like, oh yeah, he was so good in Sound of Music, and that's when you were like, I don't think I've seen Sound of Music, and I was like, we need to correct this now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it helps that it was on Disney Plus as well.
It does. That does help a lot.
Yeah, because I've seen Christopher Plummer in plenty of stuff, but what's odd to me is that I never saw him as like a young actor.
You probably, the most films you probably saw him in was older, huh?
Yeah, and he's an older man.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's when he's become like the most prominent, because I feel like most movies that I know him from are from, like, I'd say the past like 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, so
where he was already
an
old man.
Yeah, 70s, 80s.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought in this one, it was like when he first like appears on screen, I was like,
yes,
it kind of just shocked me, because I was like, oh my gosh, look at him.
I know.
He looks so smooth.
All the wrinkles.
No wrinkles at all.
Well, okay, I guess before we fully go into it, because I guess there are people out there, which shame on all of you, who don't know this movie. Why don't you just tell the audience what this movie is about?
So the plot of The Sound of Music, it's not just some eye-rolling musical, I will say. There is actually a very good plot to it. It's based off a true story.
Yes, it is.
It's about this woman who in the movie is played by Julie Andrews.
The beautiful dame.
She's
Julie
amazing.
Andrews.
She's amazing.
She's a forever fairy tale fairy godmother.
She is a fairy godmother.
And
she's so charming. She's
great. I
great.
want her to be my grandma.
Oh, I'm sorry, she's not.
I still love you, my own grandma.
Wow.
But
yeah.
I would like to add.
I'm gonna call your grandma after this and be
don't
like, your
grandma?
granddaughter prefers if Julie Andrews was her grandmother.
No, I don't. I just want another one, and I want Julie Andrews to be that person.
She could be your
my
fairy
godmother.
God grandmother. Your god grandmother.
My god grandmother.
Your fairy god grandmother.
There's godfathers and there's godmothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she's my godmother.
But she has to be your fairy godmother.
Yeah, she's a fairy godmother.
She's magical.
She is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The plot of the movie is she plays a nun named Maria. And she's kind of flighty. Like she does her
own thing.
Yeah, she does her own thing. She's not as dedicated to the strict way of life that, being a nun has to be. Was from what I got, it almost felt like this romantic idea to her as a child.
Yeah, because in the scene, she talks about looking over, like, her, let's say, fence or whatever, I think she said, like, peering down from the mountain and seeing their garden, and just thought it was so pretty and wanted to be there. But yeah, it's pretty much about her. She's like the main character. So she's from the convent and she's like training to be a nun. But then
training.
She's in training. And then, she is then sent to the Von Trapp family because they need a governess.
Yeah.
Which governess is a fancy word for nanny. Yeah.
And so while she's there, she learns that, like, she knew going into it that, like, the father, played by Christopher Plummer, he's a former naval officer, and he runs his household like it's his platoon or something. Like it's his soldiers. Yes. I think a lot of that has to do with that his wife passing away, and a lot of his pleasures in life kind of went away with her.
Yeah, he's a widower, and he was left with 7 children.
Mm-hmm.
So he must have loved his wife very much.
Yes. And so the whole part of the movie is Maria coming in and kind of bringing life and music back to the house.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
That's the main gist of it, yes.
And what also makes it great is that the main backdrop of the film is during the beginnings of the Nazi regime and turning into Austria.
Yeah,
so there's also that conflict happening, which I think makes it a lot more interesting. Yeah,
because you've got this almost contrast between Maria's world and the real world.
Mm-hmm.
It's in it's in the 1930s, so all this is going on where Germany's taking over Austria.
Yeah.
And, Hitler's regime is taking over. And then, because the majority of the movie, I think, is very kind of lighthearted. Oh, yeah. And then near the end is when things kind of get real.
Yeah, you see subtle hints of it throughout, like especially when the captain throws a party and one of the guys who comes is, he's giving him crap because the captain, has the banner of the Austrian flag, but he's telling him like, oh, you should have the Nazi flag up because it's going to happen here, and the captain's very much against it and all that.
Yeah.
But I looked up like the actual story of the Von Trapp family, and one of the plot of the movie is like they become like singers because she teaches the children how to sing, and in reality they were already like a singing family group. And I think it was Maria and the captain, because the movie portrays it like they get married and then immediately like they have to flee out of Austria because the Nazis come in. But really, I think they were married in like 1927. And so they had been together a while.
Yeah.
And they had actually come back to Austria recently from being in America, from like doing singing tours, I believe.
Oh, really?
And the reason they came back was because their visas expired. Oh. But then they had to get back out because
everything was going down?
Yeah, because the Nazis came in, and it wasn't as epic as it was in the movie. In reality, they got on a train, they went to Italy, then they found their way to London, and then from there they went to America.
Yeah.
Whereas in the movie, they have to climb over. It's a little more
intense.
Yeah, they have to like escape, like the Nazis are chasing them and all this stuff, and they have to hide in the abbey, and the nuns have to hide them and all this stuff, and then they have to eventually like hike over the mountains, which I also looked up. Apparently, like that may not have worked because that would have bordered right into Germany, and they probably would have ran. And apparently Hitler had like a
camp, right?
Yeah, and then they may have run into that.
Like, you're trying to leave and you physically run into Hitler. Like, oh, shoot, wrong mountain.
Hey, man, sorry, we're just enjoying the views. How's it going? I couldn't imagine. Could you imagine if you were just hiking and you just ran along Hitler's, like, camp and he's doing whatever Hitler does in his spare time, which I'm sure is weird stuff because Hitler was a weird dude.
I just couldn't imagine just living through that time.
I know, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially because it was just, they were so militaristic, the Nazis. So it was terrifying of like them coming in and basically thwarting their, views on the country and the people and the way of life, and just like this strict belief of, there's certain people that need to be eradicated.
I know.
It's crazy that like that ended up happening.
Yeah.
But that's just part of the movie.
That's just part of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the backdrop of it, but it's mostly about her coming to the Von Trapp family house to, help govern these kids who are, they're mischievous and they play pranks on her because they've gone through like so many governesses because they're unhappy because they lost their mom and they don't want a replacement for her.
Yeah, and I think it's not just they want a replacement for their mother, but they are craving their father's attention. Like they're kind of upset that like
he's gone all the time.
He's gone all the time and he's emotionally absent when he's around, and he just kind of thwarts these like ladies onto them to like, here, take care of my children, where it's like I think if he never remarried, they would have been fine. I think it's more of like they just want the love of their father.
Oh yeah.
But I think it obviously helps that like, one of the governesses like comes in and actually does some good and brings the family back together.
Yeah, I read that the real Maria Von Trapp, when she fell in love with the children first.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it wasn't like how it was portrayed in the movie, which is of course not, but it wasn't like a instant love connection between her and the captain. Like, she didn't love him right away.
Did you get that from the movie? Like, that they fell in love immediately?
I didn't get that they fell. I mean, somewhat.
Or there was some
like,
sort
I think there was a connection.
flirtation.
Like, there was a flirtation or a connection immediately. Like, when she first came in, because she's just so outspoken and, like, is rejecting everything he's doing. And he's like, who is this person?
Yeah.
But then, in reality, she kind of saw marriage as the easiest way to stay with the children.
Right.
So she was just like, well, I love these kids. I don't want to leave them. So I guess I'll marry their dad.
Oh.
Yeah. And so she didn't love him right away. She apparently liked him fine. She's like, okay, I mean, he's whatever. I guess I'll marry him because I just love these kids so much. But then it took, over the years, she then grew to love him.
I see. I don't know how the real Maria probably was. She was probably a lovely lady, considering, like, she was the one who wrote the books based off, like, how this story got told and eventually made into this musical and this movie. She wrote the biography of her life with the children and everything. But apparently Christopher Plummer, he didn't know anything about the main guy. Like, he didn't know anything about the captain. So he went and did some research, and someone, like, hiked him to, like, meet with the guy's, like, nephew in real life.
Yeah,
and
an interpreter.
Yeah, oh yeah, he went with an interpreter who introduced him to the real captain's nephew, and he asked him, like, what was he like? And the nephew was like, he was the most boring guy I ever met in my life. Like, not like...
So funny.
Not like one of those things where, like, you know, take it back. Okay, I'm going to take it back to, like, our first episode, Greatest Showman, where it was like, the real guy,
right,
the real circus man was a terrible person, and Hugh Jackman had to portray him as, like...
a not-so-terrible person?
Yeah, like, oh, no, he's great, and he's bringing people together. Where in this, it's like, he's not even a terrible guy. He's just boring.
He's just boring.
He's just just a plank of wood. So good luck, man.
Yeah, like, there's not much I could tell you about him, so do whatever.
Other than that, like, eventually he, like, learned to sing with his children, and I guess that's it.
Yeah. So needless to say, the real Von Trapp family wasn't, accurately portrayed in this movie, which is to be expected. They're gonna flourish.
Yeah.
Because it's a movie.
It's a movie. You gotta entertain people. You can't just, like... There is some limitations of, like we can't do this exactly because it's just going to be boring.
Yeah.
We can't...
That's a biography or a documentary.
Yeah, we can't make the captain, like, just a boring
so boring.
guy.
Like, oh, how is she supposed to fall in love with this guy?
Yeah. I mean, that would be an interesting way to tell the story. If you were to, like, make this movie now, maybe it's just, like, a straight movie... that could be an interesting way where you show her falling in love with the children, and then you see her love grow with the captain over the years. You could tell that story.
You could,
but
it would
for
be a
this,
very different movie.
Yeah, for this time, for this kind of storytelling musical, I don't think it would have worked. You kind of need, you need more connections, like, right out of the hat to, like, grab the audience.
Yeah, as far as the movie goes itself, I love the opening shot of it's just kind of flying over Austria and seeing the landscapes and the Alps, and it's so pretty.
It's great.
It's a really beautiful shot. So I think the cinematography I really liked. A lot of wide shots.
I didn't expect the movie to open that way, but I thought that was, like, just brilliant filmmaking. How it's like, let's really romanticize, like, show the beauty of this country.
Yeah.
Because it's
a beautiful country.
It's a beautiful country, and it plays into the story of just, like, how this beautiful country falls under this terrible regime coming up, So it's kind of showing you, like, this is the beauty of it, and it makes it, like, more
devastating.
More devastating when it's lost to the Nazis.
Right.
But I thought that was great. I loved all the flying views and, like, the towns. And at one point you pointed out, this wasn't at the beginning of the movie, but a lot of the singing stuff, especially when Julie Andrews is, like, her opening song, and then when she's teaching the children how to sing, like, where they're filming, I mean, it's just mountains everywhere. I mean, they couldn't ask for, like the most beautiful backdrop to all of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think at one point you pointed out that in the background was the castle. What's the castle called?
Neuschwanstein.
It's the castle that Cinderella's castle is based off of in Disney World.
That's what it looked like.
You think that's what it was?
I think that's what it was. I would be really surprised if it wasn't, because my dad and I we went to Salzburg. We went to, him and I went to Germany for the first time. We drove over to Salzburg, and got to see a lot of those places. And we went to Neuschwanstein Castle, and it looked like that castle.
Yeah.
And it could very well, because that's where it was located. So I think it was.
Which I think is kind of hilarious, because this obviously wasn't a Disney movie originally, but when you see Julie Andrews, you think that because she was Mary Poppins.
Yeah, which she'd already filmed that before this movie, but it hadn't been released yet at the time of when they were filming it. But yeah, so she almost didn't accept the role of the Maria in Sound of Music because she thought it was too similar to Mary Poppins.
I could see that, because they're
both nannies. They're both
nannies.
They're both there helping children and singing. Like, they're very similar characters.
Yeah. It's just, except Mary Poppins may be a witch from a dark dimension or something. I don't know. I've seen Mary Poppins, so we're not going to talk about it. So my 2 cents on Mary Poppins is, it's a great movie. I love it and all this stuff.
Where does she go?
Yeah, I want to know what dark dimension does she crawl out of, because that is some crazy stuff. No, she doesn't age. She just shows up. She does some weird stuff, and then she just leaves.
But she's a nice witch. If she's a witch.
Yeah, she's nice. She's nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It just when I think about that stuff, I'm like, oh, okay. It kind of creeps me out.
No. No, she's a nice lady.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought that her performance in this was just...
I liked it.
Oh, no, she's incredible.
Yeah.
She just... She flourishes so much, just... I don't even know, just magic, Mm-hmm. And it's just... Yeah, I feel like there's only too few people in Hollywood that do that,
Yeah.
And she kind of just... she just exudes this, all this goodness, and she's just so fun to watch.
She is. She's very quirky and charming in this film, and I love her comedic moments.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they're
she has
not
great timing.
Yeah, they're good timing. Like, they're not flat out ridiculous. Like, they're subtle, but they're funny.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like her little facial expressions she'll make, and
her trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she's where she's singing one song and she's strolling up to the Von Trapp house, she kind of does a little trip, and then she just kind of keeps going. But I remember when I saw that, I was like, that
looked too real.
It looked too real. I think it was an accident. I just had that feeling, because I'm like, you can't plan something like that. You can't plan pretend to trip, because you could actually accidentally trip, and then she wasn't probably wearing the greatest walking shoes, so she could easily trip and fall and break her ankle or something. So you couldn't actually tell someone pretend to trip, and that looked too real of a trip.
I know. It was really good. It was really funny.
But she played it off so well that the director
good.
Just kept it in.
Yeah, he's like, that works, because she was pretty much saying about having confidence, in this, she's nervous and she doesn't know what to expect, and and then he said it just kind of fit the feel, it fit the moment where she's nervous, and but she's got the confidence, she's gonna do it, so she kind of stumbles but then keeps going.
It has that it has that, I don't even know how to say, that fa la la feel of the main musical character, she's being thwarted into a different world that she's not used to, and all this, of having to take care of these children and everything. But I would say it's not distracting, and it does feel realistic in a way, because it's people are actually like that. It's some people are just lost and they're not sure what journey they should go on. So I thought that was really interesting to have her kind of be that way. And when she sings that song, it's almost like she's singing not just about her confidence in like, about having to go and like raise the children and all this stuff. It's more of like, I have to have confidence in like, what are my choices going to be?
Yeah.
Which is like a big part of the story for her of like what she should do, because she has this, her dedication to the abbey and being a nun, but then it's also she falls into this life where she could see herself like being happy and being like that's what she really wants.
Yeah.
What I thought was kind of interesting, because usually when they portray nuns in movies, for some reason I always seem to find they always try to like, they fall on the side of like showing how strict the nuns are and how mean they can be and all this stuff. But I liked how this, like, they showed like, oh no, they're just like, they can be nice people.
Yeah. I'm sure real nuns are very nice people.
Oh yeah, they are. But I always notice like in movies they're
very strict and condemning.
Yeah. The best example I can think of is like the Penguin in the Blues Brothers. Oh. Like they call the head nun the Penguin. And like immediately when they go up there, she just starts slapping them with a ruler. She's just like, you're late, you're this,
yeah.
You don't do this, you don't do that. Slap, slap, slap. And she ends up like slaps them so much that they fall down the stairs in their desks. But I liked how the nuns were portrayed like very, very sweet people, especially the head nun. What was her name?
Reverend Mother.
Reverend Mother?
Yeah.
Was that her name, Reverend? What was
that? Was there. That's what they called her.
That's what they called her?
Yeah, they never said her name. That's just what they called her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I liked how they were I feel like they were very open-minded to Maria's choices,
Yeah, I like, after the big grand opening song of, The Hills Are Alive with the sound of music. And that's such a grand scene to just start the movie off, and then it goes into the nuns and they're like, where's Maria now? And then you've got the one nun who just absolutely despises her, thinks she's so annoying that she shouldn't be there. Then you have the other nun who's like, oh no, she's such a sweet girl, she's great. And then you have Reverend Mother in the middle of this, who's kind of the neutral person who's trying to just kind of figure out what's best for her. And they have this whole song about how do you solve a problem like her? She's such a juxtaposition of a person. Like she's flighty, but she's kind, but she's kind of, aloof
but she's dedicated.
Like she's both of everything, it seems. And I think it's such a comical song.
Yeah.
Then she kind of comes rushing in. They're just looking at her.
She's all tired and sweaty, and I think her face looks red, and she's just like, oh, okay, they all saw me.
She's like, oh, whatever. I know, I'm late.
It's a great, like you pointed out, like how you go from Julie Andrews singing on top of the hill to the church. I like that. Just like those two scenes back to back where you see all this wide open space and it's showing like this is what Maria wants. She wants this like freedom and wants to be able to like go out there and sing and be with nature and all this. And then you show the nuns where it's like, their strict doctrine. Dark. Yeah, the dark like Catholic Abbey, cathedral, and like the organ music, and it's very kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
So it shows like, and so it's like when you see that and you realize like, oh, that's what she wants to do. It's subtle storytelling of showing like, maybe this isn't really her. Maybe this is what she maybe wants to try to be, but this isn't like her deep down. Not really.
Yeah. And
I liked how the nuns weren't condemning towards her. Because that's what I was expecting, that they were just going to be mean to her and all this stuff. But I like that, they kind of, especially the head nun, she just recognized, like, hey, look, if this isn't for you, like, let's figure this out. We're not going to condemn you or make you feel bad for not trying. Because we know you're trying. You just, you're a girl. You're young, you're quirky. And, this is a lot of dedication to want to do this. So let's make sure this is what you want, because this is your life.
Right.
Because I think I don't know the whole things around being like becoming a nun or a priest, but I know it's one of those things where it's like you got to be dedicated. And if you go full on into it, but then say if like you want out or you screw up, you kind of ostracize you. So you got to really like want to be in it, I think.
Right.
it's not something you can just walk away from once you're doing it.
At least the media doesn't portray it that way. It's like if you become a priest or a nun, from what movies looks like it's like you're in this, you can't get out. But who knows? Maybe it's like something happens and then you fall away from that. It's like maybe it's a lot of choice.
I think it's like you can, but you have to. It's a lot. Like if you get out, if you have to like really mess up for them to like kick you out.
Yeah.
And if you mess up like too bad, it's like you can still be a part of it, but you really it's almost like this constant asking for forgiveness for what you did. Mm-hmm. Like the best example I can think of is in the Daredevil TV show. In season 3, you find out that Daredevil's mom is a nun, and she's like still trying to, and she was a nun when she got pregnant with him because she fell in love with his dad. And to this day, like when he's older, she's still trying to like ask for forgiveness for what she did.
Huh.
Yeah. But as far as like the rest of the movie, I thought, okay, like all the songs,
yeah.
I didn't really, it's one of those movies where I was watching and I'm like, oh, this song's in it?
Yeah.
Oh, this song's in it? Like I knew Sound of Music. I knew the,
You Are 16.
I didn't know that was in it. 17. I thought, no, I knew about the doe, deer, a female deer. Yeah, I knew that song was in it.
Okay.
Which actually, I think the first time I heard that song, I was like at a summer camp when I was younger, and like the counselors were singing it, and I was like,
"You're like, what the heck?"
I know. I thought like, this is such a dumb song. But one, it was out of context. I had no idea. Like, I'm like, what? And plus, the camp counselors weren't good singers,
right?
And I didn't like them, so it's fine. But and within the movie, it was good. But I didn't know the 16 going on 17. I didn't know that was part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about that song, what's his name?
Rolf.
I knew it. Like I knew that guy was gonna like become a Nazi.
I feel bad for him. Like
I don't.
Why?
I don't feel bad for people who became Nazis. Like you know it's bad. Well, okay, was he Austrian or was he German?
I thought he was Austrian because she's like, Liesel was like, we're all Austrian.
Yes.
So I think so pretty much Rolf is this boy who, him and Liesel, who's the oldest daughter of the Von Trapp family, they're together. They have, they like each other, want to be together, and he's like a telegram delivery boy.
Yeah.
So the only time he sees her, that's probably how they met, was maybe he delivered a telegram to the house one day and she's like, oh, hello.
Yeah, he's cute.
He's cute.
Mm-hmm.
And then they maybe just would sneak off when he would come and they'd get to know each other. So we see a scene where they're at dinner, he delivers a telegram, and then she goes out to the gazebo to meet him.
Mm-hmm. And
clearly they talk about how this isn't the first time, this is what they do. And she's wishing that, there's more ways to see each other. And I think in that moment, it's pure and it's sweet and it's young love. And
it is. It's genuine. Like that scene, I felt these two really cared for each other.
Yeah. But I think he could see what was happening.
Yeah.
And I think he wanted to I think his character wanted to prove that he was a man. That he was on equal playing ground with, the Captain Von Trapp. Maybe in his mind he thought, if I do this and I get to be a soldier, then maybe I can, I don't know, get some status to go and actually ask for Liesel's hand or something like that. Maybe that was the start of a motivation for him. But then after getting into it and, being a part of that Nazi world, then his morals or his worldview changed, and then he became all kind of stoic and standoffish and But I think when we see him later at the end of the film, when they're searching for the family, you kind of see moments of that old Rolf in there.
A lot of regret.
He doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to, because he had a gun out and he was threatening to shoot the captain. And he doesn't want to do it.
No, he doesn't really want to.
Yeah, but I think he's wanting to prove himself.
He's not going to do it.
No, he's not going to. Well, he wouldn't. I don't think he would do it, but it's just, I feel bad because I think, like, maybe him and Liesel could have worked out if the Nazis didn't come in and overrun Austria. And
possibly.
So I don't know. I feel bad for Liesel because then she's like kind of like,
it was her first love.
What happened?
And he becomes a Nazi.
I know, it's sad.
I always love scenes like that though, where you have like this guy pointing a gun and he can't do it. He can't shoot because he's too much of a wimp. And then you have the other character like just like walking up to him, just kind of egging him on, like, come on, like you can't do it. Can't do it.
I know, the captain's like, you're just a boy, like you're not gonna shoot me and all this stuff. And then he gets the gun from him because before that he was like, you should come with us, like, because they were running away.
I know.
And I just wish Rolf did it.
I know you do. You wish he would.
You wish he would have done it because then things would have been different. But then
he'd have to ditch that uniform immediately, though.
Yeah.
Because if they see he rejected wearing that uniform, he's immediately dead.
Dead on sight.
Yeah.
But then, and then Rolf kind of hangs his head in defeat, and then the captain makes a remark, like, you'll never be one of them. And then that kind of triggers him.
And then he blows the whistle and says,
pisses him off, and he's like, I think that's kind of why I figured he's kind of has this, like, need to prove himself because of that triggering him. He's like, what? I'll show you, like, I can do this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But it's sad.
It is. I mean, you can put yourself in that situation back then. I'm sure it was like a confusing time, especially for a young man like him. And like you said, like probably wanting to have some sort of status and knowing that like, the Third Reich this is like the up and coming sort of thing. And it's like,
they're taking over. And I think he was just kind of like beat him or join him. And he felt it was probably easier to join them.
And we don't know what was happening behind the scenes. We didn't know what his family was like. Like maybe they were all for it and they were like, oh no, you should join. Come on.
Or maybe he was being threatened.
He could have been. I don't think he was being threatened. I think it's just his just of what it was. I think it was just being warped. I think deep down, if he knew how terrible it all was, like what the Nazis did and everything, he wouldn't do. I don't think anyone would have.
Yeah.
Unless you have the views that the Nazi, like the views that Hitler did, where he just wants to eradicate certain groups of people because he feels threatened by them for no particular reason.
Right.
Like when you actually like dissect a lot of the reasons that the Nazi party formed, it doesn't make sense, and it's just all built off of hate. So I think there was probably a lot of people who may have regretted like joining when they did because they didn't know exactly how far it was going to go. Mm-hmm. So I would put Ralph in that category. But I feel bad for him because, I looked up some research because he was wearing a brown shirt. And I'm pretty sure, because the Von Trapps actually did flee in 1938. But from what I understand, the brown shirts, they were the first paramilitary force set up by Hitler when the Nazis were coming into power. So basically, like as like just being part of like a political party starting off, you couldn't have like full control of like the German military.
Yeah.
So you set up your own little military force to kind of enforce your ways. And a lot of the jobs for the brown shirts which they called them the SA, and they would just go in and like mess up like political rallies for other candidates, or try to force people into their ways and all this stuff in a more forceful way. And then when Hitler gained more power and he formed the SS, which was more of like his stricter like Nazi soldiers, like so the guys who wore like all black and everything, like you see them in movies. Mm-hmm. And then from what Hitler thought, he thought there was some sort of coup happening within the SA, within the brown shirts.
So a coup.
A coup. Thank you. I say a coup.
A coup.
A coup. There was a coup happening, but he had them all. He had most of them killed. Oh. Like he had them all executed. So I think that was probably a little bit of historical inaccuracy. But I'm like, when I saw Ralph show up in a brown shirt, I was like, oh, he's probably gonna die at some point, because that's what happened to them all.
That's so sad.
I know. But I'd say, like, overall, I mean, I thought it was just great and enjoyable, you know?
Yeah, it's a very enjoyable film to watch.
I liked a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff you were looking up.
Yeah.
Like, what was it you found about Christopher Plummer? So apparently Christopher Plummer didn't like his performance.
No, I think he didn't like it. He found it really, like, irritating, and he hated working on the film.
Yeah.
And he thought Julie Andrews was just insufferable and annoying, and called her Miss Disney, and was so just irritated from working on the film that he would just drink and eat just to get through it. And they had to, like, change his wardrobe to make him fit because he was gaining all this weight
during filming, because he was just so miserable.
Because he's so miserable. I'm like, why?
I guess, but it's like it's hard for me to see that. I mean, I guess, you know, being around someone like Julie Andrews, when it sounded like Christopher Plummer was probably more of like, I'm a real actor, dramatic actor. I don't do these fluffy duffy musical movies, but he was in it. And he may have, like, been intrigued more by the part because he knew he had to play more of a serious character.
Captain, yeah.
And I could understand, like, probably, like, a guy, like, with his personality clashing with someone like Julie Andrews, who probably every day on set was probably just like, hey, how's it going? Isn't it great? Isn't it beautiful out? Isn't this amazing? La, 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 I'm going to sing. Do, 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 do. And he was probably just like, oh, my gosh, I can't do it.
Yeah, but then it said later that, you know, he ended up, like, taking all of that back, and him and Julie Andrews became good friends.
Yeah, which
he
I'm glad.
regrets, you know, thinking that way.
Kind of being a dick.
Yeah, he was.
But it's fine. I mean, like, you know, that's just how it was at the time for him, you know?
Yeah.
But I still thought he did a good performance. Like,
no, I thought so, too. Apparently he hated his performance and didn't think it probably was up to whatever he thought it should be, but I think,
I mean, I'm sure drinking and eating every day didn't help. I'm sure. Yeah. What I was gonna say was, like, I mean, how can you be miserable? Because, like, when you look at the movie, like, all the backdrops and everything, I'm like, that's real countryside they're filming on. It's gorgeous. How are you so sad? Like, how are you so sad during all this? Like, you can't be somewhat cheerful.
Austria and
it's beautiful and amazing, and it's like, you can't. I don't know.
I know.
Which actually, I thought of this. There was, I guess, some kind of, I don't want to say controversy, but there was a lot of, like, uneasiness because they filmed in the actual town.
Yeah. That
the events took place. And I guess there was some unease around, like, the residents, like, knowing that the film crew was coming in, and they had to, like, you know, have people dress up as Nazis and march around and put up the flag. And because, I mean, you think about it, this movie came out 1965.
Okay. It's been, like, what, 25 years?
Yeah, like 20, more like 20, because probably like 20, 21 years, because it's like the Nazi party started to crumble more, like, by, like, you know, the tail end of the war. So they probably had all that stuff going on up until that point. So you got, like, 20 years, like, that's still pretty fresh.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think, didn't the director have to get kind of, like, permission from the mayor to be like,
I would suspect.
can we do this?
Yeah.
Are they going to be okay seeing this?
Yeah, and that's also just respectful.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a terrible, dark time for humanity. So I could totally understand that. Like, yeah, I could see how the residents would be like, I don't like this, you know?
Yeah.
But, but again, like, that was just such a subtle part of the movie. Mm-hmm. But I felt like they did a great job of having it really, you know, elevate the stakes.
Yeah. It was a good part of the story to include at the end. I
like the children.
They're all great.
I honestly was worried that I would
find them annoying.
Yeah, I was going to immediately find them all annoying.
Yeah.
But no, they were all just very charming and great. And apparently one of them played Spider-Man.
Was he Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Oh. The guy who played Friedrich.
The kid who played Friedrich played Peter Parker Spider-Man in the 1977, I think it was a TV show, and then a movie. Like, they may have done like a TV movie Spider-Man thing. Mm-hmm. It's awful. Like, if you ever watch it,
I'm sure it's just corny.
It's corny and just
cringy.
Yeah, and it's like Spider-Man. Like, come on, now you can do a Spider-Man movie, but back then it just did not look good.
See, I didn't know he played Spider-Man. I thought he was in it, but I didn't know he played Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was Peter Parker.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. But I honestly liked all the kids. Mm-hmm. I think there was parts of it where I was like, I was kind of thinking there was going to be more of a struggle to kind of have the children fall for.
It was pretty quick.
Like, she comes in.
They played prank on her for like a day.
Yeah.
Then they were like, I'm sorry.
They stick a frog in her pocket. They stick a pine cone on her seat before she sits down for dinner.
Yeah.
But then it's like immediately they all just start to like her. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think
how could you not?
I know. But looking at it from like a story standpoint, I would have been like
a little bit longer.
Yeah. I think my like one criticism I would give it is like, yeah, I would think that would kind of stretch a little longer, especially since the movie's like 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that is taken up by music.
It is.
Where a lot of like, conversations can, like a lot of that stuff, if it was replaced by just a normal dialogue conversation, 1, it wouldn't be the same movie. But 2, that's where a lot of the runtime, I think, comes from. It's just like these elongated musical numbers.
Sure.
But I did think that I was like, I think I would have liked a little bit more of a struggle for her to win over the children. But again, you could blame that on what I just said. Like, we kind of got to get it going because we have a lot of music we got to get through.
We have a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah. And the fact that it was Julie Andrews, like, how can you not immediately fall for her, as your governess?
Yeah.
As your nanny. It's like, oh, but she's great.
So nice. I
do
like
sweet.
that. I do like that one part of the movie when she first gets there and, like, is asking the kids their names and their, like, advice. Like, she discloses to them, like, this is the first governess job she's had. I'm like, why would you tell them that when they've sent away governess after governess?
They're gonna eat you alive.
I know. And then they're, like, telling her all these things to do that clearly she shouldn't do.
Show up late for dinner. Eat your soup really loud.
Yeah. Always blow your nose during dessert or something. Yeah. And just really silly, stupid things. And then the youngest, Gretel, she's like, don't believe a word they say. And her character, then Maria's like, well, why not? And she's like, because I like you.
Because I like you.
I was like, that's so cute.
She's so sweet.
Yeah. So she knew the youngest could probably judge character and like, no, this is a good one. We shouldn't pick on her.
Yeah, she's still young enough where she hasn't been affected by like, like being older and having a lot of that stuff take more of a toll on you, especially like losing your mother. Because I know it's like, depending on like how traumatic things are, can have an effect on your personality. So it's like, I understand how the other kids probably feel a certain way, but she's younger, so she's a little more naive.
She may not have maybe remembered her mom as much.
Yeah. So it's like, I get that. Like, I understand what's like going on here. But especially like the oldest daughter, Liesel, like the first thing she says, she's like, I'm Liesel. I don't need a governess.
Yeah, she's like, I'm 16 years old and I don't need a governess. And then I liked how Maria's response was, instead of being like, well, too bad I am your governess, she was just like, oh, well, I'm glad you told me. We'll just be good friends.
Yeah. Just like, fine.
It's like, oh, okay. That's
acts like it doesn't bother her.
Yeah. She's like, all right, Liesel.
That's
fine. Yeah,
and then 2 scenes later, Liesel's like, I need a governess.
And then she's like, I told you I didn't need one, but I guess I do.
Yeah.
So they bonded.
I like the little funny jokes, like where Liesel, she sneaks into her room because it's raining outside, and she's like, how'd you climb up here? And she's like, oh, we all know how to climb up to this room because this is how we would play pranks on the governesses.
Yep.
She said one of them, I forget which one, but she said she can climb up here with a whole jar full of spiders.
Yeah. Yeah, Julianne just like, what? Spiders? And then when she's, getting dressed or whatever, getting changed out of her wet clothes from being in the rain, she kind of flips open her comforter and her bed sheets to make sure there's no spiders in her bed. It's just like those subtle, cute, funny moments.
Yeah. I'd say another criticism, I would think, So there's a character. Do we learn her real name? But the Baroness.
The Baroness von Schroeder.
Yeah, who basically she's just a lady.
She's a rich widowed.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband died, which left her with all this money, and she's from Vienna, so that's kind of where the dad goes a lot, is to
hang out with her.
Mm. Excuse him, leaving his 7 children to go be with a lady who hates children, and she...
Yeah, does she hate children?
She does, because she's like... Because Max, one of the family friends, so to speak,
Uncle Max,
quote unquote, he, was like, how do you do it? Like, what do you plan to do with 7 children? Because he's like, I don't see you as mother of the year, pretty much.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, honey, that is what boarding school is for. So she just plans on shipping them off as soon as they get married.
So she can have the captain all to herself.
Yeah, she just wants the house, she wants him, and she just wants, the wealth.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is my criticism was I think it was in the original play. They didn't include it in the movie.
Right.
But the reason that the Baroness and the captain eventually break up, it's not because
of Maria.
It's not because of Maria. It's because they have differing views on the Nazis.
Yeah. She didn't. They have different ideologies. Like, she wasn't going to stand up to the Nazis, and he was.
He wasn't afraid to.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't afraid to stand his ground and be like, this is my home. Like, no, I'm not wavering to what you want.
Rip that Nazi flag.
I love that. I love when I just love that. I love when he goes home and he rips that Nazi flag off of the front of his house after they tried to put it up while he's gone on his honeymoon with Maria, and he just rips it in half.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, rip that flag in half. He showed no respect for that.
I know.
I love that. I thought that was so cool.
I was jealous that they had a month-long honeymoon.
I know. I was like, dang.
I know, because they're
and they came back early, apparently.
Like, they were going to be gone longer?
How long are honeymoons back then?
Oh, man. That would have been so nice.
Yeah.
Month-long honeymoon, yes, please.
Please. Dang.
But just go everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good on him.
Yeah. That's Carlito's famous saying right now. It's all good on him.
Yeah, well, good on him.
Good on him.
They deserve it.
They do.
What the? Oh, sorry. But yeah, I just thought that was probably my only other criticism, because I'm like, I feel like, where's the Nazi, like, all that stuff, that it's like a backdrop to it, but I feel like they could have done more with it throughout the movie. But again, I think it was because it's a musical. We got to do all the songs, and that's what takes a minute.
Sure.
Because I think you could put a lot more stuff in of, like, especially within the family dynamic.
Yeah. Oh, I think if they had added more stuff about the Nazis, it would change the feel and the tone of the movie.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been like this lighthearted musical of this woman trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. Then it would have been more like of a drama thing.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily think that's bad. I think
it's not bad. I'm just saying it'd be different.
I think it would have benefited the film more, honestly, if you had, like, these really lighthearted musical scenes and this innocence with Maria and the kids, and then you have a scene where it's like, we're talking about the Nazis, and you see this, and it's a lot of, like, hard conversations of, like, the views of all that. I think that would have worked in the film's favor, to be honest, because I think that would have added a lot of more complexity than just, kind of putting it all in the end, where it's like, oh, well, the Nazis are taking over Austria. They want the captain to come work for them because he was a former, great naval officer, and then they have to flee.
Sure.
I just think that you could have added more in. But again, the movie was already 3 hours long, so I think it probably would have added to the length, which I wouldn't have minded. If it was like, if you can take, like, a 3-hour great movie and turn it into a 4-hour, like just incredible, like one of the best movies ever made. Like, I'm down, I'm for it. But yeah, I liked it. Yeah. I really did. I like the ending when they're, so, like, part of the subplot is, like, when Maria's teaching the kids how to sing with the the doe, a female deer, like that stuff. And then Uncle Max, the family friend, wants to like cash in on this, and he's like, oh, well, they're just, it's like all these children in one family, they should be a singing group, this would be amazing. And he wants them to sing in public, and the dad's like, no, I don't want this, no. And so at the end, when they have to escape, in order to, because when they're trying to leave, of course, like the Nazis are right outside the house, and they're like, where are you going? And they have to play it off like, oh, we're going to the festival to sing. Like, after the dad already annexed it, like, no, we're not doing this, but he has to play it off like, this is what we're going to go do.
Well, that's the best cover-up of why they're out there.
And I loved how they brought back the song that the children's make up for when their dad throws a party and they're saying goodnight to all the guests.
Yeah.
So long, farewell, avidas, and goodbye. Because when I knew that song, and I'm like, oh, it's a nice little cutesy song and whatever.
Yeah.
But I like how they bring it back at the end in a much more dire situation where...
Yeah, like they're trying to
escape. Because how they set up the song is like, as the kids sing their part in the song, they're all going up to bed. So it's like with each verse, one of the kids drops off and they go upstairs. So when they do it in front of this live audience and the Nazis are all watching them and they're waiting for them to get done so that they can take the captain off to, join the Nazis.
Yeah.
As they're singing and they say goodbye, they're actually like leaving.
Yeah.
Because they have a spotlight on them, so everything else is dark and they're just like escaping.
Yeah, it's clever.
I thought it was great. I liked that. I like it when you take something like earlier where it's like, oh, this is so like nice and innocent, and then it turns into
a survival.
Yeah, I thought that was really clever.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool
for sure.
So overall, I'd say very good.
It was a yum.
I didn't say that yet. We're not there yet.
Yes, we are. He's yumming it.
It's a yum.
It's just hard for him to admit he would yum a musical.
Well, I like musicals. I just don't like some.
Okay.
Like I think for this, because this was made in a time where I think there was a lot more prestige to just filmmaking. Like nowadays, it's like anyone makes a movie from as like gross and whatever, or just not a lot of effort put into it. But back then, it was like every movie was made with like some sense of like, this has to be grand
production.
Yeah, and like turning a musical into a movie, they could have done it like so just plain, like it could have just been like flat shots and all this, but I like that they give it this grandness to it. It really elevated the movie. Yeah. And there was a lot to it, and I think over the years, like turning musicals into movies, I think it either works perfectly or it doesn't work at all. A good example I can think of is like the movie versions of like Phantom of the Opera or Rent. I don't think those are good adaptions of those musicals. Because like even when I watched I think when we watched the Phantom of the Opera musical, but it was on TV. Like I was like, this,
like the actual like Broadway, you mean?
Yeah, I'm like, this is a million times better than that movie, because there's a lot.
Gerard Butler.
It's a lot better than the Gerard Butler movie. Also because Gerard Butler can't sing. But and then the same with Rent, because I think there was a lot of things they changed for the movie that I think were to the detriment of the story. And I think this was a much more clear cut, like you can take this pure story and still translate it to film and it still works, Yeah,
definitely.
But I'd say like overall it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Woo!
I guess I'll give it a yum.
It's a yum. Well, this concludes another episode of Don't Yuck My Yum.
Have you ever seen Rent?
Of course.
Okay. Do you like it?
I have a good time with the songs.
Yeah. I don't know. I just didn't like it.
It's okay.
It's not so much of like the material. I think it's just like the way the movie was made, I think was just a little
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I know.
But it's fine.
Yeah.
We could talk more about it later.
That's okay. We don't have to.
Okay, well.
Thank you guys for listening to another episode. Tune in next week for Carlito's Choice. And we'll see if he can actually pick one that I'll yum.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But that's the goal, right?
We'll see. It is the goal eventually.
That's the goal, is to find something that I like.
Mm-hmm.
That you like.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to share this with you.
I know. I promise there are things we like.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. Obviously. You just don't like a lot of the stuff I like, which is fine.
Well, you'll find something. I'm sure you will.
Mm.
Well, thank you guys, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, babe, I forgot. I wanted to mention something in the episode I didn't talk about.
Oh, no.
Just bringing it back to Christopher Plummer. So you remember we watched that movie, The New World, a while back?
Yeah.
By Terrence Malick. It's about John Smith and Pocahontas and all this. And it's a lot of people just like walking through grass and not saying anything.
Yeah, I hated it.
Yeah. Apparently, after doing that movie, Christopher Plummer like wrote a letter to Terrence Malick saying like, you need a writer and I'm never going to work with you again. Because he was like, I would like do these scenes where I would like be doing these grand monologues, and then it would like, Terrence Malick would edit it like with just all this other fluff around, and I'm trying to like give it my all, and he's just taking away from the performance and kind of trying to be a what do you call it?
I don't know.
The pretentious filmmaker.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought I would include that. I like that Christopher Plummer was like,
he's like, you suck.
his snarkiness went into his old age where he was just like, I gotta tell this guy straight up that he's a terrible filmmaker.
That's funny.
That's funny. Which, again, I don't think Terrence Malick is a terrible filmmaker, but I do think some of his movies aren't that great.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to share that because I appreciate Christopher Plummer for speaking his mind.
Just telling it straight.
Telling it straight up. All right.
Okay. Well, good tidbit, babe.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey everybody, this is Carlito Gilchrist from the Don't Yuck My Yum pod. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuning in and listening every week. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to leave a review for the show, you can leave it on Apple Podcasts. You can give us a 1 to 5 star rating. We prefer the 5-star ratings, but it's your opinion. It's whatever you like. As well, you can listen to us on Spotify and Anchor.fm and anywhere else where podcasts are available. I believe we're up on there. If you have any suggestions for future episodes or insights on past episodes, you can always email us at don'tyuckmyyumpod@gmail.com. As well, you can follow us on Don't Yuck My Yum Pod on Instagram. And yeah, I just want to say thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. Have a good week. So long. Bye-bye.